We are creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective, moments in time captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
So, man, I want to jump right into things, and I want to know what connection means to you.
Well, connection, I think, between people brings some type of common ground that we are all related in a way. Connection, as it relates to music, is kind of the same thing. You know, we could listen to a lot of different things, but there's something that brings it all together. Mm-hmm. You know, I think some semblance of regularity or something that relates it all, gets it all together. You know, I think that's probably my best, what I think connection is and what it should be, you know.
Right. So, like you mentioned before, like all of the things that are going on, right? You know, the police shootings,
Mm-hmm.
and the terrorist attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Do these things affect your ability to connect with yourself and with other people around you? Because, you know, a lot of times it's divisive, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't bring people together; it pushes them apart.
I think we can use it as a way to connect and bring each other closer, get closer to one another. But it's when, you know, it seems as if black men like myself are being hunted by
Right.
police, you know, and it's not. It seems blatant at times and maybe a little vague at other times. But when that happens, then the black community is getting closer together. You know, there were like in Baltimore, the uprising where I'm from. You know, yeah.
You mean last summer?
Yes, last year. You know, we had points of being very emotionally outraged, which was the uprising. It was the youth and young people, even older people, just saying we can't take this anymore.
So, like, what do you do? What are you gonna do about it? You know, because I feel like a lot of times in our generation we feel like activists, but we're only like Facebook activists.
Exactly.
Do you consider yourself an activist? And if so, are you a
Man,
Facebook activist, or are you
somebody
are you on the streets?
that the other day or about a week ago. I'm like, man, that's a heavy term to take on. So I guess if speaking out to people, and being in a controlled environment where you can talk about things and you're about action and you put forth, you know, different things that lead to action, then I'd say, okay, I could be going in that direction, but I don't think I'm an activist now because those are big shoes to fill. You know, the activists that have come before me, mm-hmm. you know.
But it seems to, just because I know your music, it mm-hmm. seems like your music has a social awareness at the very least, right. or in a social message.
Yeah.
So is that not activism?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we could look at it like that as well, because I asked when the first time I met Nikki Giovanni, the activist and poet and author, I asked her how is it that you can paint the perfect picture of what goes on in music. You know, it seems like we're busy trying to paint the perfect picture of what life is, but you do it for musicians. Like a couple of her poems explain exactly what we do on stage, how we feel. And I'm like, she just said, you know, we imitate each other. You know, it's sometimes you imitate life, and sometimes what you do has such a strong hold that you can dictate how other people's lives are going to go, you know, and I think that's very powerful with music, you know. So putting all that together, you know, I would say that we could be looked at as activists, but I think people don't really understand how powerful music is. People are very passive listeners. So while I have aims with my music, to get a lot of things off my chest and to be closer to other musicians I really dig, and to be there for people, not everybody always listens to it on that level. Right. Sometimes it serves as white noise,
but when your titles are,
are
the way that yours are,
it's
kind of almost impossible to ignore.
Yeah, I have one entitled "In Utter Disbelief" for Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, and countless others, and I tried to say something as little as possible, so that it still sets the tone for right before we play the tune.
Like, what social challenges are you facing on a day-to-day basis? That maybe mainstream America or people in other countries around the world, they don't know what's happening. Like, what's happening in America for you right now?
It's a psychological thing, I think. Like, for the most part, every time I walk out the door, I gotta think about if I'm coming back or not. Mm-hmm. Or if if I get into an argument with my girlfriend, I gotta make sure I at least say I love you before I leave the house very upset. Like, I love you.
You gotta do it right.
Like,
right.
I'll be back. But it's because it's a real thing. I may not make it back, and as a bigger guy, being 6'4" and pretty big, like,
you're a target.
I'm the type of guy that they're going to use deadly force on, because it's going to take more than one of them to get me down, and it's not like, I know that I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm not going to break the law other than like a traffic violation or something like that from going too fast. But even still, that or failing to use your blinker. Recently, in the past year, they've caused, that's been the cause of another death, for people that look like me. So, it's like you can't do anything. So, you just have to be extra careful. But it's a psychological. I don't want to say game, but it affects me psychologically.
Okay.
And how I, constantly thinking like, what is my value and what is my worth in this country as a black man? But creatively speaking, I know I have a lot of power. I just have to continue to be around the right people, and in terms of business, get my product to the right people, people that believe in it. And, I have to continue to be around good people.
Because you do, like, your music is so diverse and it pulls from a lot of different genres and influences.
Right.
Like, do you feel that makes it more difficult for you to connect in the jazz world? I'm assuming you're branding yourself as a jazz musician or a BAM musician.
Yeah, right. I'm hesitant to do that.
Okay.
For one, because the term jazz implies something completely different, now that, we've read a lot more, we've thought a lot more than we did growing up. We've talked to the elders a lot more. We've come into contact with more elders, for the answers. When it comes to, to find out that that's not particularly a term that we've always subscribed to, but the history books have given us that term to call this music that. But, I like to improvise and I like to swing. So I also like, head nodding hip hop. I like different beats. I like bossa. I like, different styles of Latin music.
You like music.
Yeah, exactly. And I like Western European or classical music. That's another term that is I'm kind of hesitant to use. But, I love music. I think that's on my Instagram page. I'm like, I play Black American music and everything else. That's.
So, what are the most challenging aspects of being a musician?
Trying to make a living from it. It's in New York City.
Yeah, what's that like?
Oh man, it can be difficult, but it's very rewarding. You have to know what you want out of the bigger picture and the immediate picture. Like a long time ago, I gave up the dream of wanting a BMW truck. Like some of my friends have it, and if they, when they hear this podcast, they're gonna know who I'm talking about, or Mercedes Benz. And if I do want that, I'll work towards it and get it. But
you can have that and play jazz.
Exactly. I know a couple people will do it now, but my desire for that, just, I don't know, I lost that desire. I see something, materialistic things aren't as important to me anymore. Like what we can do with this music and people, good times, those are what I want constantly. So, at some point in time, I changed, my mind changed all that. So,
okay.
But in terms of, what we were talking about in terms of branding and like things like that, it could make it very difficult being so diverse to play different clubs and everything, especially with owners that think of this music as one way, But you got to realize that jazz was the very popular music of its time when it came to the forefront,
right?
So we have to continue to evolve. We can't forget what, at all. We can't forget the language. We can't forget anything. We need to study that all the time. That is a pursuit that is relentless, However, we need to keep on adding to it. Just because you play some swinging music doesn't mean you should play, I know some drummers I can't really call because they can't play, anything related to hip hop, right. And when they do, it sounds like, man, where did you grow up? Like, you ain't learn. That sounds terrible,
Right.
But and it's not that they're terrible musicians. It's just that they either don't listen to it or they don't believe in that music. Like all the different styles of music that I try to put to the forefront, and all the cats that I like to play with all the time believe in every style of music that, we play together.
Of course.
So I think that's very important.
Man, what was it like growing up in Baltimore and attempting to play trombone? And
I got to it late, man. I was in high school when I started playing the trombone. I ran away from it. My dad was a band director, a music teacher, so he didn't want to like throw me into the fire, and try to like make me do it, because I loved being active. I like playing outside. I like sports. So, and he saw that. So he tried to, maybe you should try this, man. Like maybe you should try playing trumpet, or like maybe what's your favorite instrument, or like we'd always listen to music together. We'd have
amazing.
Early on, it would be, unbeknownst to me, he was like giving me drop the needle tests. He was like, Corey, what symphony is this? Like which composer? Now really think about it, how the strings are being used in this particular section. Like which composer? He always I don't know whether it was preparing me, but he
was grooming your ears.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, once I 6 years of baseball and organized baseball, then probably another 6 of basketball and some overlappage. But, I finally, like I said, heard the trombone a different way, heard music a different way. And, at the point in high school when I got to it, I was just like so enamored. I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, what took me so long?
Right.
So but I feel like I have to catch up because I'm 15 and I just started playing, and everybody else starts playing,
at least 9.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they know what they're doing by now. So, at the very least, I have to know all my scales. I have to be able to do this and do that and like play this, whatever. So, and I want to go to college for it. So I had to get myself to the point and get a private teacher. And, it was, I didn't really grow up per se in Baltimore playing music, because once I got to high school, I wasn't really out in Baltimore because I was in the marching band, the concert band, the wind ensemble, the jazz band, jazz combo, like, everything that I could do, I was doing pertaining to music. And in addition to like studying, like the trombone literature. So yeah, but it was, just work, like you said, working it out. And then I went to college, and every summer I came back Well, every summer I came back to up until a point, but the first couple summers I really started figuring things out as like a professional musician in Baltimore and like hooking up with some big bands and some of the established musicians there that had never left, or they did and then they came back, you know, and just remembering, or not even remembering, learning about the rich history of musicians in Baltimore, you know, that are often overlooked, you know, like Gary Bart's from Baltimore, you know? Yeah. So a lot of cats, you know, just, you know, we have a rich history, especially on Pennsylvania Avenue at the Royal, you know? So like there it was there, and then things happen. It goes through waves.
Of course.
Cats always want to talk about like, or ask me how, you know, the scene in Baltimore is. I'm like, well, I go back and forth. Or I used to go back and forth between Baltimore and DC, but you know, each one of those places have waves, you know, where there's like it's really hot at one point, then it's like, you know, it's a little lower. It's unfortunate. What it just speaks to, you know, where we are in the country, where the music scenes can't really thrive. The smaller ones can't thrive consistently.